When you tear out a man's tongue, you're not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say.
Well, if they were liars, it would stop them from lying. Or because they're communists. Yeah, same thing really. I know that quote has quite the cultural weight these days, but examining it past 5 seconds, man, you can really screw with it very easily. Wanting somebody silenced is not always an indication of fear. Maybe they're just legitimately stupid and shouldn't be heard. For example, any so-called educator that happens to teach the young that's missing a Y chromosome. But anyway, yes, just some guy. Big fan, by the way, in much the same way I'm a fan of watching a car fly off a cliff. Spectacular wreckage is always good fun. Now when someone messages me and says, have you seen Just Some Guy's latest political anything, I'm gonna be in a great mood. When he says anything political, he turns himself into a piñata, and smacking a piñata is always quite the crowd pleaser. Like when he said V is a fan of the Third Reich for saying the right cares about quality. That was kind of a mask-off moment that revealed his political IQ can be measured in squirrel shit. And if his back and forth with V, along with his video, is anything to go by, he learned absolutely nothing from being annihilated by the Eastern European. Which all things considered from a stereotypical perspective is just, man, it's mimetic gold, isn't it? I should really thank him and V, by the way. My response to him did very, very well. I'll link it down below. I think it's the longest video that I've made to date. Almost 10% of my entire channel's sub growth came from just that one video, so please, Just Some Guy, keep talking.
George R.R. Martin pissed off all the usual suspects on the right by kind of stating the truth.
How does one kind of state the truth exactly? Truth is absolute. You either state it or you don't. And considering my prior experience with this kid's videos, whenever he says right-wing anything, he's going to severely miss the point. Like a car flying off a cliff.
In a recent blog post, Martin talked about his dismay over the current state of the world, with the wars, the coming US presidential election, the political divide, and the deaths of several of his favorite creators.
I mean, 3 out of 4 there is the fault of the regime and a toxic concoction of piss-poor propaganda. Oh, and I suspect corruption, money laundering, and liquid natural gas.
He said that he took solace in many things, especially books, films, and TV shows, but that even there, the toxicity is growing. Quote, "It used to be fun talking about our favorite books and films, and having spirited debates with fans who saw things different."
Yeah, because currently there is no culture at all of Hollywood attacking the fans for pointing out this so-called entertainment business is an overt cesspool drowning with activists, destroying their franchises with cringe-inducing political propaganda now, is it? I wonder if the source of their ire might be measurable in, say, piss-poor ratings and trying to burn through dollars faster than the fucking Fed can print them.
But somehow, in this age of social media, it is no longer enough to say, I did not like book X or film Y, and here's why.
Because when you do, a mob of rainbow hippies will descend on you like a horde of Group B when a Nike store has lax security. Insert politically charged ostracized slogan of the day.
Now social media is ruled by anti-fans, who would rather talk about the stuff they hate than the stuff they love.
Because the stuff they love is getting infected with that thing they hate, and they want that thing they hate to piss off. It's a very simple formula. It's called,
leave me the fuck alone!
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. Well, that, and this is something no one really talks about. When fans do talk about something they like, it's an invitation for a herd of worthless morons who have nothing to do but seek, bitch, and destroy to infect this untainted thing and find something to whine about via their obnoxious politics. Hopefully that clears that up.
And delight in dancing in the graves of anyone whose film is flopped. It's all so sad.
You do realize if you produce something that isn't shit that's objectively good, they'll praise it, yes? Top Gun Maverick being a good example. They don't delight in the objective good being destroyed, they lament the creation of nothing but ass.
If I'd seen this a couple of years ago, I would have disagreed, and said this was nothing more than Martin peddling a toxic fandom narrative.
You mean back before the indoctrination programming kicked in and you defended a certain piece of so-called entertainment that would land you in a prison cell in a sane society?
However, since the pandemic,
it's a pretty good phrase to describe your political takes, actually.
And especially over the course of 2023, my opinion has changed.
AKA, I must peddle the line of the regime like the good little unthinking lemming I aspire to be.
What really did it was a response to Picard Season 3, and how people like Doomcock and mostly right-wingers copped the attitude that the season couldn't be good. Not that it was impossible for it to be good, but that it shouldn't be good. That it shouldn't be allowed to be good. That the show, the Star Trek franchise, and the entertainment industry as a whole can't be allowed to get better. It must remain bad because reasons.
It must remain bad because reasons. Oh, I do bow down. I am in awe of your astute political observations, lad. There's a reason I kept calling him a kid, because he's got the reasoning skills of a child. It couldn't possibly be because what they like is being systematically destroyed. It couldn't possibly be because they aren't idiots possessing the power of pattern recognition, and when they can see the tools of said destruction being applied to something they like, they're bracing for a train wreck now, would it? I imagine the subtlety of these claims would go over just some guy's head.
No actual reasons were given,
Case in point.
but the implication seemed to be that it would break their narrative that Hollywood sucks.
Their narrative? You see what I mean with the piss-poor political acumen? This has nothing to do with political narratives, you get. It's simply bad art. Like, what exactly about this is flying over your empty noggin?
If the shows and the movies stop sucking. This runs completely counter to their position of wanting the good old days back.
Okay, so they want the good old days back, but they're objectively saying Hollywood sucks now. Where exactly is this viewpoint running counter to anything? Is it maybe that you're full of shit and your opinion is no more than just straight up stupid?
How can you get back those great films and shows if you never give anyone a chance to make them?
I think I'll take the win here. What do you mean, give them a chance to make them? The fans aren't investors, you idiot. Evidently, they don't have much influence outside of not giving their money to bad art, hence why Hollywood is hemorrhaging dosh. What the hell does that even mean, give them a chance? It's a simple producer-consumer transaction here, kid. You make rubbish, it goes in the trash can. You don't, and I'll buy and consume a good product. Am I missing something here?
It's almost like they don't believe the things they say they believe.
Yeah, I can't find a single flaw in their logic. Then again, I'm also European and male, heavily right-wing. Logic tends to come naturally to me. You and logic on the other end, not so much. Which is kind of scary at this point. I mean, their reasoning is simply, make something good and I'll enjoy it, which has no political affiliation whatsoever. As a matter of fact, JustSomeGuy, your position reaffirms one of my own beliefs. Politics makes people stupid.
A similar thing happened with The Last of Us, where the people who said they wanted proper adaptations got exactly that and hated it. These same people spent years complaining about how gay characters are shoved into stories and how the stories were all about their sexuality and had no substance. But when they got not one but 2 episodes presenting gay characters as complex people defined by their character and not their sexuality, they hated it.
Okay, from what I see, primarily through pattern recognition skills of my own, that particular skill set is not exactly your forte, so allow me to explain this to you. There's a saying, repetition is the mother of learning. Repetitious use of homosexuality has caused homosexuality to become a political pawn. People hate politics, ergo, homosexuality is now something people detest by default because it is simply political. Do you follow this, or do I need to break out a phonics book for you?
These same people claim they had no problem with not being the target audience for movies or shows or games, but then lost their minds over the Barbie movie because it wasn't made for them, was exactly as advertised, and didn't bomb like they expected.
Good God, this kid needs to wear a helmet. Not a single thing he just said is correct, mind you. It's a Barbie movie. Who on earth, knowing they weren't the target audience, complained it wasn't what they expected it to be? Or complained that it didn't bomb? What world do you live in, kid? We expected overt feminist propaganda. We got overt feminist propaganda. The film had its base moments because of Ryan Gosling, and the writers drowning so deeply in their propaganda, they set out to make a character so reviled through the lens of their own ideology. He became the unsung hero of the movie because their propaganda is so disconnected from reality. The movie did well because of Ryan Gosling, hence why he got the Oscar nomination, and feminists were screeching in the mainstream media that the audience was watching the movie wrong. Not to mention, we were all laughing our asses off when we saw they produced nothing but feminist garbage for years on end. This one became a success. The man was the hero of the movie, received an award nomination, and still they can't connect the dots. And evidently neither can you.
Martin is right that there doesn't seem to be any joy in what many of these people do outside of clapping when another movie tanks at the box office, or supporting a film because they think it'll own the left.
Or, and I know this is very difficult for you to understand because you're a dimwitted pleb, but has it ever occurred to you this has nothing to do with the political narrative or your petty faction wars? People do not like politics, and people will praise good art when it's simply not drowning in the message. And that the activists whose entire lives revolve around making everything political will simply rage like the f***its they are when something doesn't feature their freaking politics.
Or becoming unbelievably silent when their friends make the same kind of terrible stories they criticize all the time.
Care to give a single example of that, or are you just going to throw that out there?
Now, before anyone says it, yes, I know I've made hundreds of videos criticizing shows, movies, and books. In fact, I've made more videos about the stuff I don't like than the stuff that I do.
And should that not tell you that things are objectively getting worse?
That said, what you won't find are videos where it's just me bitching about SJWs or wokeness or fucking pronouns with no substance.
Those things have no substance. This is also your favorite political faction. Your bias is not exactly subtle. Though watching you defend it with zero substance of your own is thoroughly amusing. It's like watching a fat bastard squeeze into a child's tuxedo. Everything comes apart at the seams.
I don't just talk about what I don't like.
Maybe when it's something you know you can flex some competence and nuance on, but your political commentary leaves a lot to be desired. In my case, a lot of whiskey is desired.
I talk about why I don't like it and how I think it could be fixed. My reasons aren't just because it's woke.
But when it comes to the right wing, the range of your political insight is more debilitated than Stephen Hawking's legs.
Or supporting a film because they think it'll own the left.
Again, case in point.
That's the difference between me and most of the popular anti-woke critics.
Actually, the main difference is their critiques make sense outside of politics. You, however, when you get politics involved in your critiques, sense goes out the bloody window. Much like SJWs in politics.
And one of the reasons why my videos have never been that popular. It's not just me complaining about the woke left or playing to right-wing identity politics.
Or it's because you cater to a niche audience, and when you step outside of that and try and net a broad appeal, you faceplant like a drunk trying to walk down a grand staircase. Case in point, the V debacle.
I'm not doing it for clicks or because it's trending or because I'm trying to stick it to the commies.
You could also try not following adjacent to their ideology.
I'm doing this because these are the things I actually like, and I don't like how these stories are being treated by the various industries.
And does it occur to you that the very same thing that you're criticizing the right-wingers of doing, you also do? And their opinions resonate more with the audience because it's more in line with what they wish to see in entertainment. You just admitted you do the same thing that the right does, so what separates them from you is maybe, oh, I don't know, objectively better takes. Quality, perhaps.
There's nothing wrong with pointing out that a lot of the movies, shows, books, comics, games, and music coming out today just aren't that good.
Unless you happen to point out it's because of hardcore leftist propaganda, in which case just some guy over there is going to fly off into a tizzy.
There's a lack of vitality, passion, and basic creativity in so much of what comes out.
It's the first true thing you've said in this entire video. Come to think of it, I think that's the first thing you've ever said that I actually agree with. And I suspect you're somehow going to fuck that up.
Far too many people with control over these properties and industries are more interested in their political agendas than telling a good story.
Again, true. Now where's the part where you bollocks this goodwill up?
They're so obsessed with it that they don't even realize that they could actually get their agenda across if they told a good story.
And there's the pivot. And no, you can't get people on board with something that's against the very nature of humanity. To quote Mussolini, there is no revolution that can undo the nature of man.
That's perfectly fine to point out. However, when the argument becomes claiming that the left, literally every left-leaning person on the planet, is incapable of creating anything and has never been creative, to the point that you're now trying to claim that Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, was actually conservative, you've lost the plot. When you're complaining about how you can't see your values in the media you consume, and you don't realize that's literally the same as you saying you need to see yourself reflected in the media, you've lost the plot.
No, that is literally not the same thing at all, you daft git. I can see someone who doesn't look like me have my values, hence why Asian culture is very popular amongst the right. I can also have someone who looks like me who doesn't represent my values at all in any way. Like heaven's sake, the critique is I only see illogical values possessed by activists who ruin everything that's liked by no one.
When you actually lose your mind at the mere presence of black, female, gay, or trans characters, and nothing else has happened, they're just there, you've lost the plot.
Do you see what I mean? This is where we're at in society. Brain-dead takes like this that will lead one to one of two conclusions. Either disingenuous as sin, or you're just plain stupid. He can't do pattern recognition and understand the association with political affiliation. Anything that isn't Muros, male, European, and straight, is politicized. Anything that isn't that, we assume malice and incompetence because we see anything that doesn't feature that suck and lose money over and over and over again. It's the ideology that did that. If you can't grasp that this is the consequence of basic pattern recognition, then don't talk politics. You're simply not smart enough, kid.
And copying an attitude and attacking Martin for calling this out only proves him right. That these people take pleasure out of not liking things.
They don't actually do that, by the way. See, if you simply made a flop or two and learned from the mistakes and stopped making arse, you wouldn't brew a storm of pissed off fans. Ultimately, their hatred is not being driven by malice. It's driven by disappointment in Hollywood's inability to learn why it's so hated currently. I know my audience well enough to know that's the line they'll most like from this video.
And are more about sticking it to the other side than actually enjoying any of this stuff.
Oh, dear God, please get away from the faction wars, kid. It's rotting what's left of your already damaged brain. Only one side is actively making shit to piss off the opposition, quite literally in their case. And they don't even like the stuff they make to piss off the opposition, which is why it sucks. Wasn't it Velma that was so bad leftists thought it was made by the right to parody them? Heaven's sake, the right doesn't even need to go out of their way to specifically make something to own the libs. They just need to make something with only Europeans, and the left will piss and moan because it doesn't feature their crappy politics. It doesn't even need to be all that good. It just so happens that when they do, it always seems to be a product of quality. I just can't figure out why.
And people are free to do that. I'm not saying that they can't, or that I too don't like to partake in the player haters ball. My player haters game is always on point.
He says, whilst also admitting earlier his own videos don't do that well. True, the man had more than 10 times my sub count, and my video of him talking about V did better than his own video of him talking about V. Again, I wonder why.
What I am saying is that there's got to be something more to it than that, and that it's got to be better than just not liking the politics of the other side.
They do. They point out constantly things like the writing sucks, the acting sucks, the excessive CGI, or the fact that the stories make no freaking sense, never mind the politics.
You don't have to take my word for it. Just look at how all those entertainment industries destroyed themselves playing that game. It didn't work for them. It's probably not going to work out for the right. But what do I know?
Not much, evidently, because anyone with a pair of functioning frickin' eyes and half a kickin' brain can see the right when it comes to entertainment at this point in time. It's just the absence of left-wing politics. And considering that is the tainted poison that gets this terrible phase of entertainment the green light, its absence will generate the need for something else to greenlight production, namely profit, which simply comes from catering to the audience rather than incessantly trying to fucking preach at them. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.